It's such an honor to be here today, and I can't wait to be sharing this stage with a remarkable woman, a woman that I've known for more than 2 decades. And there's a lot of people in the room, well, including family, who've known her since she came into this beautiful world, but people who have known her for so long. This is an eternally vibrant woman who has written a soulful, a powerful, and a vulnerable book, Wholeheartedly, The One You Want to Find Is You. It is my absolute honor to bring up to this stage Holly Ruth Finigan.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Ooh, who's that? God?
It's worth noting that this is a real full circle moment, because when the book festival first launched, I think this is its 11th season, you were really the person that put it, one of the chief individuals that put this on the island's radar. And now here's a full circle moment with you here on stage as one of the distinguished authors. And I hope that you're taking a moment to think about that, because what you did for this festival all those years was so impactful. And as Maureen said, it's an interesting thing when you do these kind of conversations, and I've had the pleasure of doing many of them, and have to say that there's been very few that feel as powerful and as sacred as the one we're going to do today. But oftentimes the moderator or the host will give a bio. And what I think is so interesting, Holly, is so much has changed for you over your time here in Nantucket and just in the trajectory of your life. So I wanted to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself.
Oh, cool. Well, thank you guys so much for being here. It's such an honor to be able to, be in this library in this way. This library has been so special to me on so many different levels, and the book festival has been so special for me. What Jenny was referring to was back in 2012 when the book festival was starting. I was doing a lot of social media marketing back during those days, and so I was able to help take the book festival online over the course of the 10 years into this amazing 11th year of being here with you all. So now I can say, when Jenny had mentioned to me, she's like, maybe if you introduce yourself, that could really give people a chance to see you as you want them to see you now, right? Because it's so easy to read bios or put people on boxes or look at their profile on Instagram and see that first word underneath it and be like, oh, that's who you are. But I feel like we all are so many things, I'm not just this one thing out here. I mean, when I got here to Nantucket, I was immediately told I was a wash ashore, right? That's what you are. You ain't from around here. Good luck. 18 years later, sometimes I feel like I'm still trying to get some street cred around here. Because it was 18 years ago this May that I moved here. But like Jenny said, to get myself into a space of who I would love for you to see me as, who I see me as, is just an alchemist,
And
because it's right, like if we don't talk about the dark stuff, then how can it ever turn into gold? So as you were golden girl up here with right now, I was like, there's somebody out there, when you look underneath, all of you guys have a card, and one of you will also have the alchemist at the end. Don't look at it now. But where that comes from, we have something to talk about, because I am maybe kind of witchy now too. I got all these.
in the most beautiful way possible.
The good witch, Glinda. Let's bring her out.
Yes, and there's so many gifts that you will receive through this conversation, but we do want to make note that there's a card for each of you to leave with today. So in you introducing yourself, I think you have a really beautiful way of being able to introduce your book to folks.
I talk a lot about in the book of the power of the internet, right? And then the power of coming home to your inner net, your heart space. Right before Maureen came up here with me, I asked her to pick a card, and she got the flowering of the heart. To me, that's the alchemy of blooming from this space of compassion and balance and love. And I love that this isn't working, because that's life. I wouldn't really expect it to go perfectly like that. But what this book does is it talks about the journey from the internet to the internet. And the good part about this is all of you guys on your way home, you can watch this when you get home, because that's where it lives. But right now, like Maureen said, being live, maybe that's what we need to focus on.
I love that. And there are so many different universal truths, I think, that come from this beautiful book. And in a way that you can read it over and over again and leave with feeling something new and understanding something new or becoming curious about something new. But you mentioned just a few minutes ago when you were talking about this idea of who am I? We do create so many boxes around the idea of just that, and in so many different areas of our lives. There's parts in your book where you talk about what's in a name. What does the meaning of a name? And you talk about the matriarchy. Can you tell us what the power is about both those relationships that are in our lives, how we create those boxes, and how you've been able to sort of push your way through them?
Okay, so I'm obviously somebody who loves visual, and so as you can see in my book jacket, right, here we go, the one you want to find is you, right there in the back. Well, the team that I'm representing up here right now is the matriarchy, okay? And of course, here on Nantucket, I'm representing the matriarchy. What's this place called? Anybody? The Gray Lady, right? We live on an island steeped and beloved with female energy because, yeah, oftentimes this island was run by women when the men went out and came back. So why I think it's so important to talk about the matriarchy is, one, because as women, it's great to feel empowered by being a woman now in 2023. And over the course of, I'll be 40 on Saturday, the course of my 40 years. But I'll also say, when we start to own as women everything that has happened for us, really big things start to shift. That alchemy of our lives start to evolve. And for me, that story began with my grandmothers. And I think that's something that I really want to bring back, is connecting to our elders, connecting to those that have some wisdom, some sage. So I start the chapter, the matriarchy, right, actually, on grandmothers. So I'm going to read you guys that, because to me, you know, who's got a grandmother out there? Good, hooray. Beautiful. I knew I would identify with you guys quick. Good. All right, the grandmothers. My maternal grandmother's name is Dorothy, which was also the name of her mother. We called my great-grandmother Grandma Wyman, yet we called my actual grandmother Ami. I loved her name because it rhymes with mommy, but Ami was also our friend, just like the word meant in French. Ami was originally the eldest of 3 girls, the epitome of a lady and a product of the Great Depression. She dressed like a Kennedy, scratch-cooked scrumptious meals where we were taught to finish every morsel, and read to the likes of Old Yeller and Grimm's fairy tales to us at night. She always kept a prim and proper face to the masses and would hold her bathrobe all the way up to her neck as to never expose an inch of her chest or skin. Ami is the type of person who writes a thank you note to you for writing her a thank you note. And she says sorry so often, you'd think everything in the world was her fault. My sister, Christina, was born on Ami's 50th birthday, September 4th, 1981. Everyone was quite lit that night at Ami's party, so when the call came in, someone cried out, Ruth finally had her baby. It's a girl. She weighs 9 pounds, 17 ounces. Of course, there are only 16 ounces in a pound. What they meant to say was Christina was born at 9:17 p.m. Ami's early life was no walk in the park. By the time she was 5, her 3-year-old sister, Polly, had been hit by a car and died. Soon after, her parents got a divorce. But unlike me, Ami wasn't sent off to Italy. She was sent off to an orphanage. I always thought it was strange that her younger sister went to live with other family members, yet Ami was shipped off to strangers. The fact that Ami was named after her mother never sat right with me either. I always suspected there was something more to this tale, something deeper that was being left unsaid.
There's so much in that passage and so many different layers, and I imagine many people in the audience are thinking about their own layers. What do you want people to know about the matriarchy? And I know that this is something that you've been considering a lot and will continue to consider moving forward, but as people sort of become more comfortable with what that can mean as it relates to their grandmothers, their mothers, their sisters, their daughters, their friends, what's the message that you feel is important for people to connect to?
Yeah, thank you so much for reflecting that back, because I think it is really important that the matriarchy is not a group of she-woman man-hater club. It's not it. It's a type of divine feminine energy which connects, sure, daughters, sisters, grandmothers, mothers, friends of all senses, but it also incorporates deep listening, which is why I feel being in this group right now is so powerful to talk about it, because we're sitting amongst deep listeners. And I feel so honored to be able to share a book with you all like that. I also I told Jenny and I last night, I was like, Jenny, here it is. I'm rolling out all my cards. We're gonna talk about the internet. We're gonna talk about scrolling, being people's paying attention. We're gonna talk about we're not totally effed, but we're pretty effed and we need to turn the ship around and the internet needs to go back to the actual internet and it's gonna be wonderful. And she was like, woo, that's quite the agenda. You know, we have basically a half hour, right? So she, as a dear friend and a great listener brought me back. And she was like, you gotta, let's just do something. Let's just do something that feels right. And maybe let's not even think of what it is tonight. Let's see how it goes tomorrow. So right as we were leaving, because Glinda the Good Witch had her deck of cards, come from a family that loves to play games, I was like, listen, Jenny, I have 6 cards here. Pick one of the cards and that's the one we'll talk about. And then, as I picked up the cards, the matriarchy fell out. And I was like, well, we're not in control, so that's what we're talking about. So thank you guys for being open to talk about the matriarchy, because in the book, it really is, what I'm getting at is this energy of the women or the divine feminine, and men and women have this within us. Hello, guys, you were all housed in an amazing first home. Do you know what it's called? A womb, right? It's your first home. So we all have that energy within us, and we also all lived within that energy.
It's beautiful. The theme of the book festival has been about freedom, and I'm sure you've heard a lot of people talking about freedom this weekend. One of the passages, subtitles in your book, is actually freedom. And I'd love to know, as it relates to the matriarchy and the story, some of which you just shared, again, the confines that we've sort of created around ourselves, our lives, the stories that we tell of ourselves and others. How has this idea of freedom evolved for you through this book and now through sharing it with others?
I was so grateful that that was the theme this year, because it's like you think of freedom, and then I think of kingdom. And then I think of queendom. And then I think of freedom. Can we just all start living under that universal arche of some sorts, this freedom feeling that that's what we are? And you've heard, I'm sure, one of the blessings of being here was getting to hear freedom on so many different voices. Anyone at Friday night's beautiful event at the church, right? With Jody and Sebastian and Luke, who will be after this, and Amani. They did such a gorgeous job talking about what freedom meant for them. And I was also kind of psyched because, you know, when you're like, I got a freedom thing too, but ooh, what if it gets said on Friday? And then all of a sudden I'm like, yeah, me and Sebastian are the same, because we all are the same. We all are, let's be honest. But I was like, you know what? Freedom for me is my favorite F word. Freedom is, but my other favorite F word is forgiveness. So, there is a chapter in my book called Freedom. So the way my book is set up is, sure, you can read it from start to finish. That'd be awesome. Who doesn't want somebody to read their book like that? But it's also like a prayer. You can also just open it up to any question and see if that chapter header or that question at the end or the story that unfolds is what you're looking for. So this one's called Freedom. Take what you need, the flyer said, and 3 little pieces of paper hung below. It reminded me of what a 12-year-old girl would put up for her summer babysitting services, her number to be ripped off the bottom. I was at Bali Buddha, like a boutique Whole Foods in the heart of this Indonesian island. When I travel, I love to be both completely out of my comfort zone and surrounded by a thing or two that keeps me extra comfy. So shopping at this pricey grocery mart brought me back to the feeling of being at Irwin Market in Venice, California, a time in my life where I felt completely at peace and in my element in November of 2016. Fast forward 2 years, and it's November of 2018, and I'm writing this book while writing the stories of healing the relationship with my past and my parents. Being the middle daughter of a divorce made me into a sunny and funny, likable kid who could adapt easily. But it also made me into the ultimate people pleaser, trying to satisfy both my mom and dad on every other weekend. I grew into a high-functioning adult with my circuits scrambled, thinking that only when other people were happy could I be happy too. But back to the sign, these 3 words were below, take what you need. They read, strength, peace, and freedom. I immediately went to pull on strength. Courage and strength was what my mom said to us to pray for right before she passed. But I guess I wasn't feeling it that day, as I didn't even have the strength in me to properly rip off the word. I looked at the next word, peace, and thought about when I gave my mom the Proust questionnaire and asked her how she wanted to die, and she said, peacefully. Shaking myself out of that last image, I remembered that last scene with my mom, when a bright light shone into the room. That moment that she took her last breath, it seemed like a sign from something higher, a light illuminating from above, a story of endings and beginnings, a chance to start over. And all that was left was that sacred F word that I had been seeking for so long. And as I ripped off the word freedom, the shiveries came back into my body. The sun shone bright on the crown of my head, and it was there I felt it. And I know what I gotta do. I'm sorry, Mom. Please forgive me, Mom. I love you, Mom. Thank you, Mom. I swore this was gonna be the one where I wasn't gonna cry. I told you that, Jenny. Jibo, I told you that. Pretty good. Got to the end. But that end, at the end of that, it asks, whose forgiveness do you seek and who do you need to forgive? Because that's the title chapter of the book, wholeheartedly. Because that's what freedom really is. Not carrying around grudges, not holding people so tight to you that you wish never existed.
I want to talk a little bit about the journey to self-love, and I think that really connects with this idea of freedom. And I'm curious, there's a lot of people in here who have experienced loss. How do you, if you were to speak to somebody, how can you ease the suffering through the process of loving yourself? And is this something that has helped you as you continually feel loss, as so many of us, of course, will continue to feel? What's the value of having that self-love, that journey to self-love, and really being able to feelingfully know it inside of yourself?
Yeah, I really, really, really did not understand self-love for a long time. And maybe, I'm still on the journey there. I don't think it's something that just attunes in you and then you're all set for the rest of your life. But that feeling of self-love, I love so many people, I know how to love. What is it that is preventing me and blocking me from loving myself like I love other people? And that was really interesting to go up that ladder because, I come and we come from a divine, unconditional love. We can call them our parents. Happy Father's Day, and Happy Mother's Day, and Grandmother's Day, and Grandfather's Day, and Divine Mother's Day, and Divine Father's Day, all the way up to Jesus and Mary and Anna, the grandmother of Jesus, who no one talks about, because how did Mary get all that divine love in her? Bring back Anna into this, bring back the idea of the grandmothers, connect with our elders on what divine love and self-love is. Anybody know Rocky Fox? Who would have thought that I would switch this over to the chicken box right now? But I am. Because Rocky Fox said something very important to me one day. He's a great guy, he's a great Meals on Wheels guy, does a lot with, really caring for the elders out here. And he said, spend an hour with an old person and you'll save a hell of a lot of money on therapy. This idea of connecting back to self-love, for me, brought me back to connecting back to our elders and honoring our elders and feeling their unconditional love. My book, which is Poured and Seeked of Self-Love, was edited by an amazing woman who is here right now, and she is very private, and I barely can get her out because she is such an incredible artist and writer and meditator and woman who understands deep self-love. But her name is Tracy Letty, and she's sitting right up front so she can get easy in and easy out. But she's also, as I will be okay with saying, because I know she would be as well, on a time in her life where if somebody who was in their 80s could be my editor and put her love into this book and understand that in her generation she could get what I was writing about, then I knew I had something to help with the self-love movement. Because self-love really just is remembering what you are. Do you guys know what you are? Anybody? My sister Christina, who's here, thank God. She's been my big sis / mom. I even lived with her for 3 years, so she is and not just when we were young, like when I was in my 30s, okay? So she's amazing, but when she was at my book launch, she read this because she said it was the one that helped her wake up to some things I was talking about in my book. So when I say, do you know what you are, I mean this. The first step. I would like to begin again with a quote of a journey of 1,000 miles begins with one single step. And the first step in a spiritual awakening is knowing the mantra. And the mantra is I am that. Let's try it out. If you say, I am tired, so be it. Consciousness says that you'll continue to be exhausted. If you say, I'm upset, so be it. You will continue to feel unsettled. If you say, I am happy, so be it. Consciousness agrees, and so you are content. How strangely simple this is, all right? You are so powerful that whatever you say you are, you are. As for me, after doing all of this work, after having this grand idea for this book, it is there that I started to recognize during my favorite 49-minute chanting meditations the three things that I am. I am existence, I am consciousness, I am bliss. So if I want to be free, I gotta be me. So who am I really? Well, I'm my father's daughter. I am my mother's child. And most importantly, like every other baby born, I am love. And so are you.
I have to say, it's so beautiful looking at your dad in the audience watching you. It's very special.
Well, and I cannot have my dad in the audience without giving a huge shout out to one, Mother Teresa, my stepmother. I hate that word stepmother. I don't use it. I don't even like the word hate. I can't believe I just said that. I don't like the word stepmother. I love Mother Teresa. She's my bonus mom. She and my dad are right there. My dad also has a huge year ahead of him, okay? So it's not just my book that my dad has the honor of being in, but 2 years ago, to benefit the Nantucket Book Festival, the amazing Tim Ehrenberg and some woman, I don't know if you ever heard of her, name is Ellen Hildebrand, she was doing an event called Read the Runway. And I was one of the models. And I was holding the manuscript of my book, wearing some clothes from my dear friend Julie Biondi's store called The Lovely, which was great because Ellen Hildebrand and these women are together in something called The Lovelies. That's the name of their book club. I was like, okay, let's start syncing all these things up. Well, this amazing human, Jenny Johnson, was next to us because she was emceeing the event. And to raise money for this incredible organization, Jenny was doing an auction for an Ellen Golden ticket. Do you guys know what that is? An Ellen Golden ticket is when you could get your name or a friend's name or whoever you want in an Ellen Hildebrand book. So Jenny, who knows that I probably owed taxes for the year before, was quite surprised that I kept putting my hand up like an idle hand, and it kept going up. And she said, okay, it's going to start off at $500. 500. It was like, okay, 1,000, whatever. 500, 1,500. I mean, I couldn't stop. And I was like fake rich feeling of August. That's what happens here on Nantucket. So I was like fake rich. And I was like, okay, if it gets to 3,000, I have to stop, like seriously stop. And Jenny kept looking at me and she was like, are you Holly Finnegan? Okay. Back over to Holly Finnegan. Okay. So then I left and I won it. And so did the other woman, because Ellen is so gracious, she did it twice. So I was like, well, my dad is one of Ellen's 7% male readership. So I'm definitely gonna get this as a Christmas present for my dad, so that if he doesn't love being in this book, he'll have the opportunity to be in another book, and that can be the book he wants to name drop here on Nantucket. Well, everyone, Jack Finigan is in Ellen's book. He's actually the main love interest in the 5-star weekend, okay? So not only for Father's Day is he the main interest in Love Star Weekend, the woman's name that's the main character is Hollis. And my nickname in my family is Hollis. So in this book, Hollis the blogger, and Jack Finigan, her first love, are the main characters in this year's 5-Star Weekend. So, listen, not that Ellen needs another plug for her book, but I will tell you, Jack Finigan will be signing on Main Street this summer.
Oh, it's so special. One of the take-homes for me in reading this book many times, I've had the pleasure of reading it throughout the journey that you've been writing it, is to sort of be able to consider some of the questions you ask. And I think that's one of the great things that you're leaving everybody with today, is to be able to ask some of those really hard questions. And that's the truth. They're hard. And with that hard comes a lot of emotion and a lot of vulnerability. There's something about this book that makes the vulnerability accessible for a lot of people, in a lot of ways in which, we spend a lot of time trying to keep them at bay. So I want to talk a little bit about your toolbox. We hear a lot about the things that we can do to either pull ourselves out of hard times or to help us get to a next chapter when we feel stuck. And that, I think, is one of the great gifts of Wholeheartedly, is you're given a few of those things. So for folks who haven't had the opportunity to read it yet, share some of the things that are in your toolbox, like inside of you, that you call on when things get hard.
Yeah, the first and most important question to ask yourself is, for this toolbox, let's say, to open, is, what is my relationship with my parents? Once you've asked yourself that question and start to work through that question, what is my relationship with my parents, that will then open up this toolbox that already lives within you. Everything you already have is everything that's already been placed right here in the internet. The actual internet is a great tool for, Google and all that stuff. But I will say, if you ask yourself, what is my relationship with my parents, everything starts to open up, whether you like it or not. And let's be honest, nothing beautiful ever comes easy, so I don't expect everyone to walk out of Father's Day just being like, what's my relationship with you, Dad? I'm going to rescind that card. I actually need to send you something else. But I will say it's this: what's my relationship with my parents? The second one, what is my relationship with my phone? You hold hands with it all the time. What is my relationship like with my phone? Every Sunday, they give you that beautiful tool of, what's your screen time? Love that. Love when that shows up. And like, your screen time is up 46% this week. I'm like, ooh, ugh. I gotta check myself, apparently. Something's going on. Why am I spending so much time online? The final one for me was, what is my relationship with social media? Because my relationship with social media was taxing my own self-worth, self-value, and self-love. So really putting boundaries around those three. The last thing I'll say is, I never, and my partner who's here, Jibo, he will attest to this, I never sleep with my phone in my bedroom. I keep that going to bed and waking up very sacred, so that when I get my phone, I'm ready to have it in my hand consciously. Because so often, how many times do we wake up and get something that's, screws with us before we're even up, right? You got to check in with you before you check in with your phone.
It's a beautiful theme that is woven throughout the book, this idea of going from addiction to sort of a healthy connection with, and something that I think, whether it be with the internet or whether it be with our phones, is something that we can all take a look at. I want to end by saying you made the decision to self-publish this book, this first book, and I know that you're already working on your next. Are you thinking that you're going to decide to self-publish, or what are your feelings about moving forward?
Thank you so much for that, because I did self-publish this first because that was the self-love of self-publish, because I didn't want to wait for somebody to tell me that this was good enough that you can put it out there, or that I don't like your cover actually, or that name's not going to sell. It's not what it's about. This is my joy, not my job, but it is my life. And it's not anybody else to tell me what the cover of my life should look like. Or also be the author, as my dear friend Ted Burnham in the office that we live in right now, Ted said to me, authority. You are the author, the authority of your life. coming back home to that is so important for me. So reminding yourself, when writing the story of your life, don't let anyone else hold the pen. But yes, I don't want to self-publish again. So on that note, yes, I don't want to self-publish again. Yes, this is a trilogy. Yes, I am working on the next one. I would love to bring in someone to help me now that I understand what I need help with. Because guess what? Right back from the beginning, asking for help is a sign of strength. Thank you.
Okay, and in closing, I know that I want everyone to know the cards that they have on their
Oh, yes,
they're
thank you.
bringing with
I'm
them.
very mindful of time right here. So I want to tell you, every card that you guys got, do you see one? Hold on, my friend Charlene, what do you got there? You got a card on yours? So every card, what does it say, Charlene? The body. Oh, I love that. What's your relationship with spirits and what's your relationship with spirit? Okay? Every single one of these cards has a question that's in the book or a story. And if you want to know what your story is or the one that is coming in, I have my last handful of copies because I'm sold out of my second printing. I'm ending my book tour here with you guys today. So if you'd like it, I'll be there. If not, I have a way to get you to scan the flow code and you'll be able to get the next printing, which will be in August. So thank you guys so much.
Holly, Ruth, Finigan, everybody. Thank you.